Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to the Desi Powerhub podcast. Today we're going to be talking about something that is really important but often overlooked, and that is establishing your own boundaries. And these may be in regards to protecting your time, protecting your energy and mental focus, and they may look different for different people based on your field, your current relation, or whatever scenario you're in. So, when we normally think of the word boundaries, it means to separate two things, right? And that seems to have like a negative connotation because when you're establishing a boundary, you're essentially putting your foot down and being like, okay, this is where I start and you end, and this is where we keep things separate. But essentially, it is something that is crucial in establishing a healthy relationship, be it in your house, be it with your friends, or be it in your professional sphere. And when we put limits in these relationships, we're protecting our physical, emotional, and mental space. So think of it as like invisible lines that define where you end and another person begins. It's about respecting your own needs and teaching others how to respect them too. And oftentimes it might seem like pretty easy to establish, right? Because, on paper, you can just grab a pencil, create a line, that's a boundary that's being established. But not necessarily that simple. Establishing healthy boundaries is something that takes trial and error, it takes a lot of willpower, and oftentimes it may require a lot of difficult conversations. And also, it may make you feel selfish or negative at times, but in the long run, healthy boundaries are what's gonna make that relationship a lot healthier and last a lot longer while preserving who you are in essence and your mental stability. So, if they're so important, why are they so difficult to establish? Well, a few reasons are we fear confrontation or rejection. We obviously worry about being seen as selfish or difficult because essentially you're telling the other person like stop, no, I need my space. This is my space. I need to keep it as such. So that is really difficult to say, especially when you're saying this to maybe like an employer or maybe even your kids or your spouse or maybe even your close friends. Whatever it may be, it's really hard to establish and it feels selfish at times. Sometimes past experiences or cultural norms can make us believe that putting our needs first is wrong. You may come from an environment where you always need to put others before yourself, and so you do that so often and so frequently, so selflessly, that you realize that everything you do has become about the other person. And somewhere in the process, you've lost who you are, how you think, and what makes you you, right? And you're a unique person. You're gonna be the only person who has that way of thinking, who has that, you have your unique fingerprints. And so if you're getting so jumbled up that you lose your own essence, that's gonna be a very negative place, both for you and for the other person, the relationship dynamics, and overall long term consequences. So, the first step is to be honest with yourself and know that sometimes we're not sure what our needs actually are, and creating boundaries may help us understand them better, and that just recognizing that there is a problem, it needs to be addressed, and trying to take consistent steps on improving that. And for some people, it may look like their employer is asking them to work on the weekends when they clearly have plans with family or friends, and they're unable to say no, so they say yes one time, the other time they ask again, they accept. And with this, the boundaries between when work stops and when free time starts starts blurring, and now they have no clear idea of when one part of their life starts and one part of their life stops. Or for working mothers, or like even housewives and stuff, it may look like you telling your family that you need to work, but them not respecting that and constantly coming in to talk to you, or disrespect that you need this time to work on your own goals, and you've catered to them, and so you need this time to yourself because you deserve that. And it's really true that you can't pour from an empty cup, but you can't refill that cup if you're not giving yourself that boundary, that space to. And oftentimes it's really easy to say, well, people won't let me, I'm just so occupied, I can't take time out. But you need to realize that you're a human being who has the capability to like move things from one place to another. Do you realize just that act, like how powerful that act is? You can literally displace matter from one place to another. That's a really, really powerful realization. And so anything you do, you only do it because you decide you want to do it. Obviously, I'm not talking about extremely negative situations when there are times when a person can't help it, but even trying to establish even 5 minutes to yourself that this is my time, or this is my boundary and I don't want to let anyone cross it, is going to be pretty helpful in the long run in building up your muscle to create that healthy boundary of sorts. And for other relationships like friends or loved ones, it might look like maybe a cousin or someone comes over to your house, and they come over every weekend, and you know that you need that time over the weekend to prepare for the next week or to focus on a few hobbies that you have, and you cherish that time with them, and you want to spend time with them, in a balanced way. But because you weren't able to communicate, maybe they don't know, and so you're gonna feel like you're being disrespected, or you can't have time to focus on your own things. And over time, this is gonna lead to just like hate and feelings, like negative feelings, to develop. So what do healthy boundaries look like if you're dealing with unhealthy boundaries? And sometimes it may be unclear what healthy boundaries may look like, and sometimes it can be as simple as being able to say no without guilt. Like, I can't take on that extra project right now. Or setting time limits. Like, I can talk about this for 15 minutes, but then I have to go. And then actually going after 15 minutes, not just sticking there. Or expressing your feelings with ease. Like, when you speak to me that way, it makes me feel disrespected, and being able to protect your space as a consequence. Like, I need some alone time to recharge, or I need to work on this project. This is important to me. I will spend time with you, but maybe afterwards. Or even being able to delegate tasks. Like, I think this would be better handled by someone else instead of me because I need to focus on this project right here. So on the flip side, now this is what like a healthy boundary would look like, where you're able to establish these things. But on the flip side, what would unhealthy boundaries look like? You're constantly saying yes when you want to say no. You're feeling resentful, or being feeling like you're taken advantage of. You feel responsible for the other person's emotions. Any cycles that they go through, you're gonna feel like you hold responsibility for that. You're ignoring your own needs to please others. And so, this goes back to your employer or friend, or maybe like your kids or spouse or whatever. You're putting yourself second or third or even fourth, or you're not even on that list. You're putting all these people first, and you always push your needs aside to focus on theirs. Additionally, you're experiencing burnout or emotional exhaustion. You're getting cranky, you're getting agitated, there's a lot more volatileness in the relationship, and sometimes you don't know why that is, and you really want to cherish that time, or like cherish that job, or work on that project passionately, but you can't pinpoint what's causing that exhaustion. And that may, if you explore it further, be linked to being unable to create those boundaries. And additionally, another thing is feeling like you have no personal time or space. All the things that you were once passionate about, or had hobbies, or had like personal endeavors, like maybe after work or during your free time, you aren't able to do them anymore. And so you feel like you're losing a sense of self, a sense of control over your own time, space, who you are as a person. And these feelings, if you're feeling any of them, they should trigger like a few alarm bells in your head that you might be undergoing unhealthy boundaries. And what happens if we constantly ignore our own boundaries? Well, we risk burnout, we risk chronic stress, but most importantly, you risk damaging relationships. You know, a mom might be agitated and, constantly like getting at their kids, like scolding them constantly, being unable to form that relationship. It's because she didn't put her foot down, or he didn't put his foot down first and establish that this is my time, I need this time. If I get this time, I will be recharged and I can come back to you guys better. But since they didn't get that time, they're more like irritated all the time. Or maybe it's in your workspace, you're normally a very passionate worker, but since your boss or coworkers don't respect your boundaries, and so you slowly just like start resenting what you're doing. You feel like any passion or motivation or like drive that you initially had kind of like disappeared on its own. And that's really bad, because what are you doing then? You're just going to work and just like slugging through, and then you're coming back and you're going through the same cycle again and again and again until you burst, until something's gonna happen. You're gonna just like flip a switch, and that's about it for that job, at least. Or maybe for friends, it may look like resentment builds up over time, so you're passive aggressive, or you're explosive, or there are outbursts, or you just lose your sense of self and you feel like you're living someone else's life instead of your own. And you feel like the essence of what makes you kind of disappears, because you aren't able to water your own flower bed. Essentially, you're so busy catering to someone else's flower bed that sometimes you feel like your flower bed's dying. And when that happens, you're not there to water someone else's flowers either. That hate is gonna kill you on the inside. That agitation, resentment is gonna build up until it damages you or the relationship or the other person. And the steps to establishing healthy boundaries are pretty simple. Like, they're simple, definitely not easy. First is identify your needs. Try to note down why you're feeling conflicted, and this is something that I do often. Like, I can think about an issue and I feel like it's constructive thinking, and it might be. For some issues it definitely is, but for issues where you're confused about your emotions, you definitely want to peg them down, put them on a note, so that your brain's not constantly thinking about, oh, I need to remember that, otherwise I'm going to lose that train of thought. And so when you put it down, you know, you feel like it's there, and then you can build on that thought until you come to the actual reason of why you're feeling this way. So take time to reflect on what you need to feel safe and respected, and back to that healthy boundaries circle. And for that, journaling or meditation or just talking to someone who can provide good advice, not any random person, can definitely help. And once you've established what you're feeling, why you're feeling, it's time to like take mature steps to deal with it. You can't be blaming someone else, because it's not their problem. It's your failure to establish those boundaries, and you need to accept that. And it's totally fine. People slip up all the time. You just need a little bit of self love, dedication, and, you know, discipline, and you'll be good at it. But you need to communicate clearly and assertively. So use I statements to express your feelings and needs. For example, I feel overwhelmed when this happens, or I need this. And sometimes it might feel like it might definitely not work in a workspace, but you need to give it a go. Maybe it will. And if it doesn't, that tells you a lot about your workspace really early on that you wouldn't want to discover after spending years with that employer or that setting. And so it's good to be able to express those emotions clearly and practice saying no. So don't start like with the big things. Don't start like, oh, yeah, that project, I can't take that at all. Give it to like the newcomers. Or you can't just jump in and say, yeah, you know what, from this day on, I'm not going to be doing any of this stuff. You can't just start with big things, start with small things and gradually work your way up. Because the thing is, you're not just building the other person's trust in, this person really keeps up with their established boundaries. You're also trying to build your trust. Because if you say, I'm not going to do this from now on, and the next day you're doing it, then what does that tell the other person about you? It just shows that you're not reliable as a person, you can't stick to your boundaries, and since you don't respect your own boundaries, they might as well not respect you either, right? It's a big message, and sometimes it might not feel like, oh, if I don't respect myself, the other person definitely will, right? No. It's very subtle and it's in human nature that if you let yourself be pushed around, other people will definitely start pushing you around no matter how nice or how amazing they are. This is just human nature. It's just the way things work. So start with small things and gradually work your way up. It's okay to say no without giving a long explanation. So I do this a lot sometimes. For example, if I'm gonna be unavailable for a meeting or something, I will give them every single reason about regarding why I couldn't make it. Instead, I could just say, I am unable to make it because of a personal issue, full stop. You don't need to go into excessive details. That's just not needed. The more you go into details, the more it starts sounding like an excuse. So keep it short, keep it concise, and keep it to the point. Another thing is setting realistic expectations. So, boundaries are not about controlling others, they're about controlling your own reactions and actions. They're not about telling your kids or telling your spouse or telling your friend or even telling your employer to just like get lost, give me my time, whatever. You can do whatever. It's not about being aggressive, it's about being gentle and getting your space back without hurting the other person. So there's a really nice saying that I am thinking of right now. I might be butchering the exact words, but it's something like be gentle with your relations, but be firm with your boundaries. So you don't have to be harsh to convey your point. You just need to be firm enough not to let the other person push through. And one of the last things is be consistent. So boundaries only work if you enforce them consistently. You need to prepare not only from a pushback from the other person, but also from yourself. You might feel like it's so tempting to just like break the boundaries, you know what? Because it takes a lot of discipline. It's almost the equivalent of being able to go to the gym or training for a marathon or something difficult because it takes a lot of willpower to, if I use the example of a mother, it takes a lot of willpower and self control to not let the guilt of not spending time with your kids and doing what you want to do, because you know that doing this will help you spend time with them in a better way in the future. So it's looking at things long term, it's being patient with yourself, and it's having that consistency and discipline to be able to stay firm on what you want to do. And this brings me to another important point, which is you need to be patient with others and yourself and prioritize self-care. So setting boundaries is essentially the biggest form of self-care that you can establish, because you make sure that you're taking care of your physical and emotional needs, but sometimes you're going to slip up and you're going to feel pathetic about it, but that's a normal part of growing, right? You might slip up 7 times, you might slip up 10 times, but what matters is that you're consistently trying it again and again. So don't get discouraged if you slip up, learn from your experiences, and just keep moving forward. And the last thing, if all of this isn't working, maybe just seek support. Ask around. Just like talk to a therapist or a counselor or a knowledgeable friend who is not the person you're trying to have healthy boundaries with, or even talk to that person. You know what, maybe they have some insightful advice for you. If they respect you enough, they will understand you and they will step back and they will give you your time to come back and to be more refreshed. And this same thing goes for good employers. If they respect your boundaries, if they have a good leadership role, they will understand that you need these boundaries to be able to work better in the long run. And since they cherish you as, a partner in their work or whatever, they will respect those boundaries, maybe give you some good advice, and let you be a better version of yourself, because they know that employing you doesn't mean that they exhaust you and squeeze every living productive second out of you. It means that they get a loyal partner who works with them to grow whatever your goals are. So that's it for today, and I hope you found this insightful. It's something I think about from time to time, and I also talk about it a lot because it's definitely important, but it's definitely very hard to establish. Sometimes you really have to push yourself. Sometimes it might break your heart, it might be extremely difficult and feel extremely selfish. But just remember that setting boundaries is not selfish. It's an act of self love and self preservation, but it's also an act of love towards whatever you do, whoever you're with, and whoever you're associated with. Because by doing this, they will respect you more as a person, because they see what you're doing to improve yourself. They see that you can establish boundaries. They see that you have consistency and discipline to do so, and they will respect you as a person. And believe me, if they don't, then I don't think they deserve to be in your life in the first place, because that means that they're self centered and they don't really care about your growth in the first place. So if they definitely do care about your growth, they're gonna appreciate that. Just give them time. So, creating healthy boundaries, in essence, it's about creating a life where you feel respected, valued, and empowered, not by just by those around you, but by yourself. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope this episode gave you some practical tools for establishing healthy boundaries. Just remember to be kind to yourself as you embark on this journey, and that's it for today. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum.